Do you ever think about your legacy or what will be said about you after you leave the earth? We all know that we don't live forever, and so do you think about what your life will mean? What will people say about you after you're gone? Do you believe that your life has meaning or purpose, that you will even be remembered? I do know that that is true. I know that you have meaning and purpose, and my life will be remembered because people will say a black man helped save the world. And I thought, wow, that's really impressive. But I know that that's true as well. Because, see, I've already done so much of it, I just haven't finished it yet. Saving the world means that we're just helping more people understand who they are and to come to a higher state of consciousness so they can live really great lives. And that happens as we evolve as humans. When I was young, I never thought that this was going to be where I would be in my life. I'm 74, and now I can finally do this. But I had to wait for the world to change first, otherwise it wouldn't have made sense. See, I started receiving information from Wilhelm in 1989. I didn't know why I was doing it. and I kept doing it every day, and I kept writing it down, and I was saving them, and I didn't know why I was doing that. I thought, this makes no sense. Why am I saving all of these? But it felt really important. And then at the same time, what was happening is that I was moving through every challenging, difficult, horrible experience that a human could have. And this work was healing me. Because, see, it did something else. It worked with my consciousness. And it said to me, every person born has something of value and worth, and all they have to do is uncover it. And we've given you something that can help them do that. And that seemed so ridiculous to me. But then I had to look at my life and I go, how did I get led there? Why would I have been given this? I can remember as a kid, I was always so sensitive to everything. I never felt like I didn't fit in anywhere ever. You might have felt that way. You might be feeling that way now. But I know that that also has meaning. That's purposeful because it means you came to bring something different to the world, meaning that your life is really valuable. But see, I know that about every single person, and that's the big difference. I couldn't see any insignificant people at a certain point because after I kept receiving Wilhelm information for all these years and I kept healing, I knew that there was a solution for every person. Their only difficulty that they had, they just didn't know where to go or what steps to take, or they couldn't own themselves. I do know that one because I wasn't doing it. And so we discover that when we can develop something, then we can give it to others so that they can evolve and so our world can change. There's nothing that happens accidentally in your life or in our world. It is all movement of energy, and we interpret it at different times in our lives and different times in the world. And certain people will develop things that have us do that. And I was one of those people. But I hid from it for so long because it didn't make sense to me. See, because I started doing something else. Um, a few years ago, I started noticing that the messages had an organization to them. That I had received them at different times in the world where energetic changes were happening, planetary changes, and all of that. I had no clue that was happening. And I stopped myself because it was so surprising. But what I saw was that I was healing and people were healing, and that's what the world wanted. And so that's why I know I will be a person who will be remembered as someone who helped save the world. Now, when I'm talking about saving it, that means that it's just better. And it becomes better when you become better. The other thing that we come to understand is that we are the ones who are creating the world. It's no one out there doing it. It's just how willing are we going to be to owning ourselves. And that's what's going on right now, which is why it feels a little stressful. Because we're trying to decide which people are the important ones. And you have to decide if that's you. But something happened in 2021, and I put it up there today because I found another video, Wilhelm session, that no one had heard. 8 people had heard it. I've done that a lot. No one hears my videos or sees them because I had to wait until I understood what had happened. And now what's going to happen is that I'm going really big. I have the right people now who can take this information to a much wider, broader audience, which is what I've always wanted. So I had this great idea that if I had enough people who would do this, we would see a very different world. Because what would happen is that more people would understand who they are and live these really great lives, and then they pass that on to others. That's what we call that ripple effect, you know. Not to your kids or whatever if you do that, but just anyone who might be around. And so, Wilhelm, I said, well, why did I have to bring in a new philosophy? And it was because of the life that I lived. And one of the things that I never kind of understood since I was a child, I didn't understand racism. I didn't understand why we acted that way. I always saw everything differently, even differently than my brothers, let's say, because I had a very different life. I always make the joke that I didn't know I wasn't Jewish until I was 13 and didn't have a bar mitzvah. Because I was in a Jewish school, a school that was mainly made up of Jews. So I just thought that's where I was supposed to be. I couldn't see differences because that wasn't my experience. And then the other thing that started happening when I started going into the world, then into the working world, we didn't have computers. We had nothing. All we had was a telephone. And so I had to get jobs. And I would call to get jobs. That's how we did it there. You go to an employment agency. And I was always getting in because they thought I was white when they would talk to me on the phone. That was real. That's just how the world was. And we can't look at things and say that didn't happen. That's exactly what happened. And so I kept getting pushed ahead because I was fooling everyone because they thought I was white because of the way that I sounded. That was so, and then I was smart. So I was breaking stereotypes that didn't make sense. And I kept doing that. And they kept putting me in positions of leadership and power. And I said, no, I can't do it. That's what I did. And even on the very first message that I received in 1989, it wasn't the first one, but it was the first one where I thought, okay, I know that I was given something. Because what happened was, it told me, Wilhelm said that I was afraid of the power that I had. And it was true because I could never hurt another person. All I knew was love. That's the only thing I could do. And so it was really challenging to see people fighting with one another and going crazy because it didn't make any sense. So then what happened in 2021 when I finally agreed to start doing a live channeling because I knew all this information. Wilhelm had been telling me what would be happening in the world, what we would all see, everything that's happening in the world. Wilhelm has told me, and that's what I put out in that video earlier today. You can hear it because it was almost 4 years ago. But the information is just saying exactly what was going on now. There's an organization of information that goes throughout time. There's organization and cycles that we experience in our lives and also in the world and also in our civilization. And we happen to be living at a time of mass change in our civilization, which is also connected to the changes of our planets. Now, not a lot of people would have understood that or studied it, and I didn't think I was studying it either, except I was receiving it that way because that's how the information came through from Wilhelm. Now, that seems so out of the box because I couldn't understand it. Where am I getting this information? How is it healing me? How is this happening? Well, I was connecting to something greater than what we all know. You can think of it however you want. I know that there's a greater intelligence, and that's what I was connecting to, which kind of surprised me. But it was all aligned and organized, and it was meant to come into the world now. But I'm going to leave you with things so you can see it, because I've created so many documents of the work that Wilhelm has given me that shows you how you can live the life of your dreams and help change the world. Because your success will change the world. Every person is born to become successful. And it happens when you start moving into accepting yourself. And sometimes we just need a plan, a way to get there. My life was about creating this plan. And again, I couldn't have known that it was going to be what it is. You don't know what you can do either, because you're never done. You are limitless. If you can think of it that way, because you have consciousness that is going to always evolve and expand as long as you're using it. And this is why I'm saying at 74. Now, tomorrow, well, on Monday, I'm making a whole big different change. I'm going into the next part of my life because I'm putting all my focus into bringing all of this Wilhelm work into the world, because it's going to make a big difference, not only for me, but for the rest of the world. And I can say that because I know that it's true. And I can say that because it's already done that. Because people have done it and they've just gone on and started doing magnificent things that I didn't even expect. And so now, if I have more people doing that, we'll see a very different world eventually. And that's the big thing. It's eventually is when we decide to accept who we are. And that's what I'm doing. But it's the right time for you to do it as well. Please check the descriptions in this video, because I'm leaving so many documents that will give you information about who you are, about what's happening in your life, what's happening in our world, and how you can make it all so much better, because you were born to be extraordinary. And if you've ever heard that before, please know that it's true, because I know that it is true. When I was told that I had all this information when, in 2012, that's a whole nother story we'll go into. And then they said, well, we've given you a message for anyone you might meet, and it was on their birthday in 2012. That seemed so didn't make any sense at all until I started doing it and using it, and it was so accurate, to the point where people would cry when they would hear their message, because it gave them this sense of belonging, like they knew, yes, I'm connected. We all are. And that was the work that I was given, and that's why a black man will help save the world. Saying those words were so uncomfortable for the longest time, until they became so true that I knew I could no longer hold them back, because there's so many people who want to live much greater lives, that want to see a much better world, and that's what we can do. Please check everything. Subscribe to the channel if it's your first time here. Share it with others, because now I can take this to the entire globe, and so that people can start living the lives they're meant to have. See you soon.